It is 7 February 2013. You might want to write this date down on your calendar because tonight I'm breaking some revolutionary news in the concealed carry handgun realm. I believe this to be a YouTube exclusive report. Later this month, Smith & Wesson will unveil a concealed carry lightweight handgun that will revolutionize the personal defense industry. To my knowledge, this event has not been leaked to any media. I have not heard any broadcast, social media, print media of any kind discuss this earth-shattering upcoming event. They are about to release a gun that has been under wraps and in testing for decades. And when I say it will revolutionize the personal defense industry, I'm not exaggerating. This gun will shoot a full-size caliber. It will be competitive with any other offering in dimension, meaning height, length, and weight. It will be extremely shootable, extremely concealable, extremely comfortable to wear, and unlike the main competitors in this arena, the affordable, subcompact, lightweight handgun, and I'm talking about some heavyweights here, guys, some heavyweights in the lightweights, the Glock 26, the Ruger LC9, the Keltec PF9. The one thing that sets this new Smith & Wesson, it's just an unbelievable gun. The one thing that sets it apart is that in decades of testing, after millions of rounds fired by test shooters over these decades, the gun has proven to be 100% reliable. 100% reliable. What I mean by that is this. Unless any of these test mules had been completely worn out, modified in an irresponsible way, or just flat abused, they have never failed to go bang. Okay, you ready, guys? See this beautiful new blue Smith & Wesson box? In a YouTube exclusive, I'm going to show it to you now. And here it is. You ready? There it is, guys. The revolutionary Smith & Wesson J-frame Smith & Wesson 642 Airweight revolver, 5 shots in 38 special plus P. Okay, you got me, guys. I've been kidding. Sort of, but sort of not. You know, these guns aren't glamorous anymore. They're not. They're not the thing to have. They're not the newest, the latest, the greatest. In fact, they're just not very cool at all, are they? We all remember the J-frame revolver from growing up watching the TV cop shows. Who carried J-frame revolvers? Well, we know who. The fat desk jockey detectives who, when the chips were down and the stuff was hitting the fan, they struggled to get up from their desk chair. They dug in their fat to draw their J-frame snub-nose revolver in a clumsy way and fired off a couple ill-placed shots and usually took one in the gut and died. All the cool cops had 44 Magnums or Model 19 357s, or later on they had Glocks and SIGs. The J-frame was relegated to uncool, overweight, fat police officers. Oh, and wait, there was another blow to the reputation of the J-frame. When Smith started making these Airweights, they made one with a slimmer grip, and they stamped on the side of it, Lady Smith. Well, that was about the last time any self-respecting cool dude ever bought an alloy frame J-frame revolver. But let's look at the facts here, guys. First of all, let's stack this gun up against the modern wonder polymer guns and see how it really places. This 642, the aluminum alloy frame concealed hammer J-frame revolver, weighs in at 16.5 ounces loaded with 5 shots of 38 Special plus P. The heaviest of its competitors, the Glock 26, weighs 26.1 ounces, almost 10 ounces heavier. The Ruger LC9, 19.6 ounces. And the athlete of the bunch, the Kel-Tec PF9, weighs in at 15.2 ounces. This old dinosaur isn't even an ounce and a half heavier loaded than the lightest full-size caliber handgun known to man, the Kel-Tec PF9. What about height and length? Believe it or not, all 4 of those guns, PF9, LC9, Glock 26, and the Smith 642, are within 0.3 of an inch in overall height, from the butt to the top of the sight, ranging from 4.2 for the G26 up to 4.5 inches, 4.5 for the LC9. The PF9 comes in at 4.3, and the J-frame comes in at 4.4 inches in height. Overall length, from the back of the butt to the tip of the barrel. The shortest, PF9, 5.8 inches. Next, the Ruger LC9 at 6 inches even, and then the 642 at 6.3 inches, and the Glock 26 is the longest at 6.5. Those guys are pretty similar numbers. So we have one of the shortest, one of the lightest full-size caliber guns known to man, and I don't know, what is the Smith double-action revolver, about 100 years old now? Now let's talk about reliability. How likely are these guns to go bang when the trigger is pulled? Well, guys, we all know the story of the Smith & Wesson revolver. The gun is reliable. Even a novice shooter can pick it up, pull the trigger, and until it runs out of ammunition, it will fire a projectile every single time. Regardless of wrist strength or technique, it will always work. It will never misfeed. It will never double feed. It will never fail to eject unless you break the ejector off. It will fire 5 shots every time. And we've all seen YouTube videos, and we've all read reviews and read reports of failures, especially in the PF9 and the LC9. Even occasionally, a Glock will fail to fire a round. Not a Smith & Wesson J-frame. Now let's talk about shootability. I've shot all 4 of these guns. I've owned 2 PF9s. I've only owned 1 J-frame Smith & Wesson, and I'm holding it in my hand. I just bought a Glock 26. I've got a little experience with these guns. I can tell you this. Other than the Glock, possibly the Glock, the J-frame Smith & Wesson, even in the Airweight version, is the easiest of the bunch to shoot accurately and quickly. They point well, the recoil pushes pretty much straight back, follow-up shots are easy, and the sight picture is very easy to acquire, even with these rather small, fixed rear groove and front blade sights. while we're at this, let's talk about capacity or firepower. Yep, this gun only holds 5 rounds. No doubt about that. It brings up the rear in the capacity battle to the other guns. The gun of the 4 that holds the most would be the Glock 26. It holds 10 plus 1 rounds. It's also the chunkiest, weighs the most. But guys, most of us who carry concealed every day are going to be using this in environments where our propensity to need it is low. You know, if we're in a high-risk environment, generally we're going to go with something a little larger that holds more bullets. And, you know, let's face it, compared to the Glock 26 in firepower, this gun's lacking. No doubt about that. Even against the PF9 or the LC9, it holds less rounds. However, I would bet my money on placing these 5 in vital areas over the 7 or 8 that I'm going to have in the PF9 or the LC9. It's just plain easier to shoot accurately. And the last thing I want to talk about here will be comfort, carryability, and concealability. I have carried these guns, and it seems a little strange because, let's face it, there is one big negative, you would think, ergonomically and from a comfort standpoint, about the J-frame revolver. This big old cylinder. I don't know, what is it, 1 1/8 inch, 1 1/4 in diameter? Yeah, that puts the overall width of this gun at the fattest of the bunch. But I carry this gun about half the time in everyday carry, and I carry it inside the waistband in this DeSantis holster. And there's just something magical about how this thing melts into my side. It seems like this area where the cylinder protrudes just sort of buries on top of my hip bone, and it just rides there comfortably, and it almost aids in keeping the gun from sagging my pants. And then there's the shape of the grip, and this is not to be overlooked. This gentle curve and this narrow dimension here help it just sort of bury into the love handle of a middle-aged man. You just don't see it. It doesn't print. It prints the least of any of these guns. Easy to grab in a combat grip, and without re-gripping, point it and shoot it accurately. So guys, if you're into being cool, if you got to have the latest and the greatest technology, this is not the gun for you. And I got to tell you, I was that guy. You know, I am a TNP'er. Most of my my gear and gun purchases over the last 5 years now have been really influenced in a good way by Nut and Fancy. And we all know he's not a revolver guy, and nor was I. You know, in my collection for many years there was one revolver, and it's a Smith & Wesson Model 29-2 44 Magnum in nickel with an 8 3/8 inch barrel. And frankly, guys, it's a safe queen. I get it out once a year and shoot it just to man up and have some fun, but I never carry that gun. The thing weighs 3.5 pounds. I wasn't a revolver guy. A friend of mine needed money a few years ago and needed to sell this. I bought it to help the guy out, and a few months later I found myself carrying it half the time because it just works so well. So if you don't have an ego and you just want to carry some comfortable, concealable, lightweight, super reliable protection, go out and buy one of these. You can get them used anywhere for $300 to $350. They only list for $459, and you never have to pay that. It's not like the shelves are empty of these things. They're not in danger of being included in any gun ban. And they're not cool, so nobody wants them. Idiots. I recommend you go out and get yours today.